rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Well, there sure is a lot of speculation out there about the future of Star Wars. Where do we go from here? Where's the company going? There's a lot of clickbaity headlines all over social media. People having a field day with this, and that's why you turn to us here at Rebel Force Radio, because we'll go over what we know, what we've heard, and help make sense of it all. Put it into proper context. Well, some people just want to do that sort of, drive-by reporting that they do and get you all worked up. Well, we're going to take our time with it and look at what the future of Star Wars is. Has it been revealed? We will look at these so-called leaks. Also, joining us in the cantina a little bit later, one of our all-time favorites in the galaxy, far, far away, and here in our own, the great Steve Sansweet from Rancho Obi-Wan. We'll be talking to him about a really exciting new YouTube series coming up that will be showing off not just Steve's collection, but objects from collections of other noted collectors, all going to be converging soon enough in the Saga Museum project. So we'll talk to Steve about all that and a lot more. Plus, Matt Smith, who's going to be in the upcoming film Star Wars Starfighter. We've got some interview highlights from him. And I'm sure you've heard about this by now, that George Lucas is coming out of retirement. Did you hear? George Lucas is coming out. Again, getting back to these clickbaity headlines. George Lucas out of retirement. Relax, folks. He's doing a cameo, a voice cameo in the new Minions movie. So we'll be talking about that, of course. So strap in, have a great time. We're glad that you're here. Hang out with us for the next couple of hours here at Rebel Force Radio, breaking down all the week's Star Wars news. And by Rebel Force Radio, I mean, of course, me. If introductions are in order and new to the show, my name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Did you hear? Did you hear? George Lucas is coming out of retirement. Did you hear? Yeah, he's coming out of retirement, but not to do what you want him to do. Right. Definitely not to do what you want him to do. He's running a museum and voicing a minion.
You think that's at the top of his to-do list? Run museum. He wakes up in the morning, he looks at his calendar, his schedule, run museum. Voice a minion.
Yeah, it's just tacked up to the wall. Bucket list. George's bucket list. Minion, museum, plaid shirts, et cetera. Vineyard, all up there.
Right.
But we'll be looking forward to hearing George's work in the upcoming Minion film. But one guy who I don't think is ever going to consider retirement is the Grand Poobah of Rancho Obi-Wan, Steve Sansweet. He's going to be a constant in Star Wars collecting forever. The great Steve Sansweet, ageless and a friend of RFR. So I thought we'd just take a second. The Saga Vault is happening. The first episode is out there now, focusing in on the Mandalorians. And what is the Saga Vault? Well, I thought we'd just take a quick look at the trailer to get us primed for Steve and his appearance coming up later on RFR.
Somewhere in space, the rarest Star Wars relics in the galaxy are locked away in private collections. Original props, prototype toys, and pieces that were never supposed to exist. Saga Vault is bringing together the world's greatest Star Wars super collectors. Each week, one theme, 4 legendary pieces, and only one will earn its place in the Saga Museum of Star Wars Memorabilia Vault. Chosen by the collectors And you. Mandalorians, crew gifts, droids, Darth Vader, holy grails, and hot potatoes. 11 original episodes featuring unforgettable artifacts. And every vote decides history. The Saga Vault.
This is such a cool idea. I remember, Jim, you mentioned this to me because this actually ended up happening. It was filmed not too far from you in the Chicago area. And you said, yeah, Steve's going to be in town, Steve and Ann, and I'm going to head over there. And they're doing some YouTube thing. And that's all you needed to know. And you went out there and wow, what a beautiful production this has turned out to be.
It was really incredible. Hosted by Dan Lanigan of Cinema Relics. And we'll talk to Steve all about it and get the down low on everything happening with the Saga Vault later as we go into the cantina with Steve Sansweet. But I think right now we need to get into the RFR mailbag. And our switchboard is always open for your voicemails. Let's hear what RFR listeners are talking about.
Let's do it.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message?
Message, Doctor, the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Hey, this is Aaron from Fairlawn. I had an idea about whether the Hutts actually were speaking Basic in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. There's a film called The Hunt for Red October with Sean Connery in it, where the characters, I think Sean Connery's character is speaking Russian, but at some point in the movie, they seamlessly transition from him actually speaking Russian with English subtitles to then just speaking English. But the way the film works is that you sort of in tune that he's actually speaking Russian, but for the convenience of the viewer, they're just using English instead of having subtitles. And I was wondering if that's the same maybe in the Mando movie, where actually like in canon, the Hutts are speaking Huttese, but just for the convenience of the viewer, they're speaking Basic or English that way we can understand it. And I think that maybe is shown by the fact that they start speaking Huttese and then it transitions into Basic. So maybe that's just like a movie trick for us to be able to understand them for long periods of time over a 2-hour movie, but actually within the canon story, they're actually still speaking Huttese. Wondering what you guys thought about that.
I thought this was really, really cool. And Jim, just to refresh yours and everybody's memory, The Hunt for Red October is a great film. So if you've never seen it, you got to see it. Alec Baldwin, Sean Connery, it's Tom Clancy, the very first Jack Ryan big screen adventure. So I've got a clip of this. Aaron's remembering it correctly, but it's not the Sean Connery character. So let's play the clip from the film.
Все, иду как такс, блажен, бодрствующий и хранящий одежду свою. И он собрал их на место, называемое по-еврейски Армагеддон. And the seventh angel poured forth his bowl into the air, and a voice cried out from heaven, saying,
So by simply zooming in on his mouth with the camera,
yep,
he suddenly starts speaking English.
Right. And he's quoting the Bible, I believe. So they're starting with text that would be somewhat familiar for a lot of people. So I think that was a good device. But yeah, you're right. So the camera pans in or zooms into the speaker's mouth and you flip, because that would be a really long movie if they stayed speaking Russian the whole time and we were watching the subtitles. Yeah. And, I was thinking back to Mando Grogu. You saw it a few more times than I did. If I remember correctly, with the Hutt twins, they start speaking in Huttese. You're reading the subtitles until they mention something about Grogu, your son. It would be a shame, or you can imagine. I think they're talking about how upset you would be if something happened to your child. And Aaron makes a really interesting observation. Could it be that I've been reading this wrong, and actually in universe, the Hutts continue to speak Basic, but as he says, for the convenience of the viewer, like this Hunt for Red October clip, that they just bypass that and they're speaking Basic or English. Definitely is a possibility. But again, going back to that line, I thought that line was specifically basic so that they were being not so subtle about a veiled threat to Grogu. You know, kind of like that old cliche of, you know, when the mob would roll up on, you know, maybe a flower, flower store or something like that, flower shop, and say, boy, you got a nice shop here, but you'd be a shame if anything were to happen to it. You know, you might want to, was that sort of the vibe that the Hutt twins were giving Mando as they, you know, brought Grogu into the conversation and they switched to basic. So I could see it. I could see it both ways, but it's an interesting idea.
I find it fascinating that anyone in Star Wars actually speaks English at all. It is a galaxy
right
from a long time ago, far, far away. And it's amazing that happens. Now, people get hung up on this because Jabba the Hutt never spoke English. But I am surprised we're still having this conversation because we were exposed to plenty Hutts speaking in English in animation and things like the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like that ceiling has already been broken through a long time ago. And it wasn't anything that really jumped out to me or bugged me about the Mandalorian and Grogu. It is bugging some people because they demand Hutts to only speak in Huttese. But again, as you say, that makes for a long viewing experience when one of your main characters is speaking another language throughout the entire thing. I kind of like how they mixed it up. It sort of reminded me of Godfather 2. You have De Niro speaking Italian throughout the whole movie, except he says that one line, I'll make him an offer he can't refuse.
Right, yeah.
And that's in English. And I liked how he slipped out of the Italian into the English, and I liked how the Hutts slipped out of Huttese into English because they did bring the Huttese back, if I remember correctly, as the film went on.
It does swing back at one point, yeah.
You know, the Huttese and the English. So it's like English Huttese. You know, I know some people who live in Spanish-speaking households. They will speak in English and mix it up, and it's like they say Spanglish,
right?
And you know, so Huttese in English, Hanglish, Huttlish.
Oh, I like that. Huttlish. Yeah.
Huttlish.
Now, but what do you make of, so Aaron, you know, you brought the Godfather Part 2. That's a good one. But in that case, man, they made you read a lot of subtitles in Godfather Part 2. I mean, it was a lot of reading. Do you think it was the intention of Jon Favreau to imply that we're taking a shortcut here for the viewer, but in universe, the twins were still speaking Huttese to Mando?
Right. It can if you wanted to, I guess. You know,
if that helps you.
Yeah. I mean, because these films have been translated into a million different languages. So I assume the Hutts are speaking Huttese in all languages, and then they break into the English or the French or whatever, you know, or German, whatever. But we'll know when the Blu-ray comes out, we can have those audio options. Remember George Lucas, when he made the original Star Wars, he received pushback from 20th Century Fox because of the Greedo sequence. Say, well, you have this character speaking in this language that kids aren't going to be able to understand, and some of them might not be old enough to read yet. And George said, well, this will create a bonding experience between parent and child as the parent reads the subtitles to the child. That was.
I can attest to this, and I have very vivid memory of both my dad, my grandfather, and my brother reading me when I saw Return of the Jedi in the theater multiple times, the Jabba the Hutt subtitles. and they all had like a different take on it. But I do remember I was 6 years old at the time, and yeah, I could read ish, but not bantha fodder was not in my vocabulary as a 6-year-old. So
bantha fodder was in nobody's vocabulary, regardless.
So I needed a little help.
Age.
Okay.
You couldn't understand what poodoo meant.
That didn't take much.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So maybe studio executives still march to the same beat of the same drum. And over at Disney, they said to Favreau, hey, we can't have Huttese throughout the entire film. But again, I think a precedence has already been set via animation.
Right.
And who was in charge of animation? Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of Lucasfilm now? Dave Filoni. So I think Filoni is probably the guy who told Favreau, no, it's okay. You don't need to make him speak nothing but Huttese. We did this on the Clone Wars, so it's okay.
Going back to Clone Wars, though, Jabba, in his appearance, going back to the Clone Wars film, I don't think Jabba himself ever spoke Basic. I think Jabba was always subtitled. Now, Zero spoke Basic.
Yes, he did.
And I think some of the other denizens like Cy Snoodles, did she speak Basic versus the Huttese? Yeah. And then there was that one episode where you had all of the various Hutt leadership together. And I remember there being some subtitles in there. But Zero, I can't even remember Zero ever speaking Huttese, to be honest with you.
He completely abandoned all of his Hutt upbringing and culture once he became a big city slicker on Coruscant. Now, Jabba, I believe, according to canon, Jabba could speak English if he wanted to, but he felt like it was lowering himself.
Oh, okay. So he's posturing with his Huttese. Like, you'll speak my language, pal.
Exactly. That's exactly how it is.
And hence the need for an interpreter.
Hence.
Yeah.
Didn't Zero the Hutt have an interpreter droid too? I don't think so.
Did he? Oh,
I don't think so. Maybe he did, but maybe that was more like a servant droid than an interpreter. But that's the rap on Jabba. He felt like he was lowering himself. It was a lower standard to speak English. Huttese was glorious. And the song of the Hutt language was all Jabba wanted to hear.
Yeah, you could definitely see like in George fashioned Jabba after a mafia don, and you could see how an old school they used to call them the old mustache Pete's, the old school mafia dons back in the day wouldn't want to lower themselves and speak another language. They would speak in their native tongue. It's kind of a power move. I like that. I like the power move idea.
Right on. So that explains Jabba. But Zero, he was a free spirit. No question about that. And Zero's going to do what Zero's going to do, and you're not going to be able to talk him out of it. And he probably forgot how to speak Huttese. Like I said, once he moved to the big city, he just forgot he didn't care anymore to display Hutt culture.
Yeah, he did really reject his background a lot. He went full neon. There's a lot of neon with Zero, a lot of crazy tattoos. And,
he was tatted. Well, the twins had like markings on their jaw and on their chin, didn't they? And and
Jabba had that anchor tattoo on his arm.
Right, anchors away.
He was tatted up.
That's interesting. So, do we have any other voicemail?
We do. Yeah, here's this is from Tanner.
Hey, Jason and Jimmy, Tanner from Denver here. I'll make it nice and quick. Just driving to work, and I heard back on the subject of what should we call this new trilogy, and I want to throw in for the Ring post-trilogy. So we got everything focused around the OT. So the originals, prequels, sequels. Well, now that that's done, post. So love to hear your thoughts on that. RFR number 1.
Yeah, remember when we started calling, Jim, you remember when we started calling the new era of action figures the postmodern era? Yeah, when it came to the Hasbro. Yeah, it stuck for a while. And then once we were separated by more years from the postmodern era than we were between the postmodern era and the vintage era, you know, for a lot of people, that Power of the Force line from the 90s, the mid 90s, that's vintage to them. That's their vintage line. So it's all a matter of perspective.
I heard somebody talking about this vintage item, and it was like Padme's Naboo cruiser. And
really?
That's where we're at now. Now the prequels are vintage. Holy crap. Holy crap. I wasn't prepared for that.
I got to go lay down.
I have to be eased into these revelations about how people are considering the classification of historical items when it goes from modern to vintage. I feel like a part of you has gone from modern to vintage as well.
Yeah.
Especially if you've been around it for so long.
So Tanner's idea for the new trilogy, 10, 11, 12, and beyond, the post trilogy, yeah, maybe. Yeah,
I think I suggested that. I may have suggested that.
Oh, did you? The post sequel trilogy. You know, they didn't call World War II during World War II. So, you know, when you're in something, you don't necessarily have the name for it always. You kind of look at it in retrospect. But I think throughout the sequel trilogy, we were referring to it as the sequel trilogy. This is the sequel trilogy. It's, you know, being developed now. And George was all about the word prequel during the whole rollout of the prequels. I think we talked about this on RFR previously, but whether or not prequel as a term was used prior to the Star Wars prequel trilogy. And I believe it was maybe in literary circles and things, but it certainly hit mainstream usage because of Star Wars, the idea of a prequel.
And it just became a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, really, when you look at the history of the prequels and the impact it had on films, you realize that it was the prequel trilogy that launched the era of the franchise because it had a pre-existing foundation in the original trilogy, which was already out there. And now you're expanding upon it by going back in time. That's why the episode numbers became so important in all of the marketing. Star Wars Episode 1, Star Wars Episode 2, etc. It became so important in that marketing because it had to be placed within the proper context on the timeline. You had to know that this stuff was happening before the original. That's a
really good point. You're right. You go back and you look at those film logos and the Phantom, you know, despite unlike the original trilogy where you had Star Wars and then you had The Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars was just kind of like Star was at the top and Wars was at the bottom, and then similar for the Return of the Jedi. With the prequels, the names of the films was not as important as the numerical numbers, and you could see it in the logo where Episode 1, Episode 2. They backed off a little bit by the time they got to Revenge of the Sith and really played up Revenge of the Sith. But Episode 1 and 2 were all about the Roman numerals more than anything.
Definitely. And then look at the sequel trilogy. Disney wanted to really mute those Roman numerals. They didn't want you to be thinking about episode numbers because you don't really need to know. All you have to know is that it happens after the original trilogy. And if films were released in a linear fashion, like they should be, everyone would know that it's happening after the events. Because that, like, in the serial nature of these releases, I don't believe that the Flash Gordons had episode numbers or chapter numbers, but I might be wrong on that. I'm just trying to look into my memory, you know. And I don't want to look at Google, but it's that serialized feel. If you're rolling everything out in a linear fashion and it's all coming out in order, you don't need to constantly remind people when it happens on the timeline. Everyone is fully immersed in the timeline and knowledgeable of forward progress.
But as you look at the way Star Wars storytelling is unfolding now, where you've got various series, animated, live action taking place at various places on the timeline, you can't help but look back to George Lucas and the prequels to realize that he really felt that context and putting that out there to essentially inform the viewer what they were seeing and where it was happening. He felt that was really important. He had to have, or they wouldn't have just, really referred to the film as episode 1, episode 2. And I think Lucasfilm is learning that. I think they are learning that there is some frustration and some barriers that are being created with the way that it's rolling out. And we'll talk about it with the rumor breakdown on the future of Star Wars, whether or not they're pivoting from that sort of scattershot storytelling.
Exactly. So to get back to the caller's subject, what would you like to call the new trilogy, the episodes 10 through 12? What can we call them? I mean, maybe it'd be best to be presented with the trilogy and we could frame it properly. For all we know, they're going to sneak in Star Wars Starfighter as episode 10. And then we'll call it the Starfighter trilogy? Hard to tell. But I think Starfighter will be a bridge from the events of the sequel trilogy into the events of the post-sequel trilogy. See, it's starting to work for me. Post-sequel trilogy. It's starting to work for me. Yeah. Now that Tanner is kind of fully established it as an acceptable way to call
thank you, Tanner.
Trilogy. So I think it's official now.
I think post-sequel trilogy is going to be a great name for us to use in the lead up to it. But to your point, once we see what that story is, that story may become the name of how we refer to that trilogy. If it's a New Jedi Order or something like that, maybe that's what we'll call it. It's the Jedi Order trilogy or the New Jedi Order trilogy or something along those lines. But I think that will happen more or less in, looking back after we've already experienced it.
It could be a more organic thing, or it could be something that comes out of the marketing where they want us to refer to.
Yeah, they tell us what they want. Yeah, right. They might tell us. Yeah.
Much like with the prequel trilogy. I don't think Disney ever embraced sequel trilogy necessarily as a way of designating those 3 episodes. I don't think they ever really marketed it that way. Or did they?
Well, there is at least one box set of films, collection of films. They did 3. They did 3 box sets. One was called the prequel trilogy, one was called the original trilogy, and one was called the sequel trilogy.
Right there in black and white. So that's the designation.
Yeah.
Officially.
Yeah. Official.
This is Rebel Force Radio, your source for the Force, with Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
All right, one last voicemail here. This is from Robbo from Chicago.
Hey guys, got a question for you. We recently had 2 new additions to the Star Wars canon universe, so to speak, with Maul Shadow Lord and the Mandalorian Grogu. And I'm curious to know which of the 2 did you guys enjoy the most? Let's try to be neutral here and don't let like the after shows, the call-in shows, and the Mandalorian and Grogu after party show that you guys had, don't let that sway your decision. as far as just the content, which one did you enjoy the most, and which one do you feel has the most impact into the Star Wars universe? Booshki-doo.
All right.
See,
That's a great question.
Start doing that Booshki-doo business. I knew that was going to
it's going to catch on.
Up some, it's going to start catching steam, and I don't know.
All right.
That is a great question.
It is a really good question. Which one did I enjoy the most? And this is taking out the hours of after shows that we did for Maul and the couple of episodes that we did in the aftermath of Mando Grogu. I have to tell you that I have to give the edge to Maul. For me, I have to give the edge to Maul in terms of enjoyment because it kept me guessing. I pretty immediately felt an affinity for the characters, the complexity that they were creating with Maul, villain, anti-hero, where's he going? The big, the death of the lead character, what we think was sort of one of the lead heroes at the end, and Brander Lawson. I mean, it was a roller coaster. I got to give the edge in terms of enjoyment to Maul for me. As far as what has the higher stakes or what's going to create more ripples within the Star Wars universe, no, well, I don't think neither one of them do, to be quite honest. Now, jury's still out. If Devin turns out to be some sort of Force user that comes back in the post-sequel trilogy or in Starfighter or something, then yeah, in retrospect, yes, then that will have major ramifications. But as far as ramifications within the galaxy of Mandalorian and Grogu, I don't know what Hutt trading routes. I don't know. I don't really see any major ramifications out of that story.
I find it really incredible that through your very positive breakdown of the things that appeal to you about the Maul Shadow Lord show, not once did you utter the name Darth Vader. I think that's amazing because that, to me, was the thing that really pushes Maul Shadow Lord into a more elite category of storytelling in the Star Wars universe. Because otherwise it was a very small story, all located on one planet, Janix, focusing in on these specific characters, some characters who don't really have any leverage when it comes to big picture things happening in Star Wars. I'm looking at you, Brander Lawson. I mean, we were really taken deep into this guy's life, and I don't know if we really got into his head that much, though, Brander Lawson. I think we just went through all of these challenges in life that he was going through. But did we ever really get into his head? We never did. When you think about it.
No,
never
not so
got
much.
into his head. And so, which makes him totally expendable. And he was taken care of there in the final episode. So we won't be seeing him anymore.
Oh, you know, people are screaming at us right now, Jim, at there's car speakers saying, he's still alive. You guys have missed it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have seen the that's right. You know, the whole thing with Daki and Maul and yeah.
The betrayal.
Right. Why waste that? And I don't know. Maybe they're all right. Maybe he is coming back. I don't know. But
that's right. We forgot about that. He's going to come back with spider legs. You just watch. But, you know, I just think that's amazing because that's the first thing I thought of when
was Vader?
It comes to, when I think of assessing the Maul Shadow Lord show in the type of context that Robbo wants us to do it. That's the first thing that pops in my head is that final episode with Vader and just how mind-blowing that was.
It was awesome.
For a Star Wars fan. It was great. But I think overall, I prefer The Mandalorian and Grogu. And it's because it had a key ingredient that I didn't really feel from the Maul show. And that's like the magic, you know? I felt a lot of magical stuff coming off of the screen in The Mandalorian and Grogu. I just did. And I know now people are screaming at their speakers because I just said that.
Yeah.
What's so magical? It was just another episode of the Disney Plus show. But I mean, I think it just speaks volumes about how much I like the character of Sweet Baby Yoda and how much I enjoy spending time with that character. And I like the character dynamics between Din and Baby Yoda. I really enjoyed the Hutts. I really enjoyed the sequence on Nal Hutta, where Grogu was left alone. Some people dog on that, is dragging the movie down or slowing it down. I felt like the movie needed to slow down right in that precise moment.
I love that sequence. That was one of my favorite sequences in the whole movie, for sure.
Right. And to me, that all had the quality. It had captured the quality of Star Wars magic. And it's a difficult quality to really define, but you just know it when you see it and you feel it. And there were several times throughout The Mandalorian and Grogu where I went there. And if I can go there, then I think the movie has achieved something as far as the realm of magic goes. And I didn't quite get that so much from the Darth Maul show.
I would agree with that. I would agree with with the lack of magic. Yeah, I think that's definitely fair.
Yeah, it was darker. It was more of a downer. It was more brooding. It was more. It was smaller, as I said. And it's not like Mandalorian was big picture stuff at all. And I'm really thankful that Jon Favreau made that very clear before the film was released, where he said that Filoni would be dealing with big picture stuff happening in the Mandoverse in the Ahsoka season 2. Meanwhile, the Mandalorian and Grogu doesn't really deal with that. It's more of a standalone adventure type of thing. Knowing that going into it really helped ground me for what I was going to be presented. Because prior to that specific statement, I thought they would shoot for the stars. Literally. Yeah. I thought we would get, the big three reunited in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
They would, because Luke had a connection with Grogu. And I thought all of that stuff would come to, and I also thought there would be all stars. You would have Bo-Katan, Fennec Shan, all of the characters you like from that show would all appear. And maybe even an epic Mandalorian thing, which I don't think they really pulled off in the streaming show. The Mandalorian conquest of their former planet, the way they drove the Empire out of the planet Mandalore, there were times when it felt like there were a very small group of Mandalorians involved in this, when I wanted to see thousands of them. I still want to see that. And it all comes from the Empire Strikes Back novelization, where it was stated that the Jedi defeated the Mandalorian super commandos during the Clone Wars. And I've always just had this picture of a giant ground battle happening, Mandalorian versus Jedi. Thousands of Jedi, thousands of Mandalorians.
Clone Wars really tried to give us that visually. There was some pretty epic shots of lots of Mandalorians flying around, but not fulfilling the promise that was in the novelization, as you quote. Yeah.
Though they did a great job with that, and obviously you have unlimited resources when you're drawing these Mandalorians, but when you're on a live action set, there's only so much you can do. I just felt like, when all those Mandalorians are training on the beach, it had a summer camp vibe to it. It just seemed like there were maybe 20 of them. Maybe.
Yeah.
And it just felt like summer camp, day camp, even not even the sleepover camp.
Small scale, for sure.
Yeah. It was really small scale. And so I thought maybe the Mandalorian and Grogu movie would have presented something like that, as far as an epic ground battle goes or something. But no, they kept it pretty tight, and again, it makes me appreciate the magical moments a little bit more, as opposed to getting all wrapped up into some epic, Lord of the Rings type of ground battle.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm picturing, like Lord of the Rings, the final Lord of the Rings, where they have these big ground battles and they just come rushing at each other, orcs and humans or whatever.
Yeah, super epic. It's funny though, as you were saying, like talking about the Favreau quote about, well, okay, so our film is going to be Filoni's Ahsoka season 2 is going to handle that sort of big universe changing stuff. And it's like, wow, how interesting is that? Where, okay, look to your small screen for the big story, and the smaller story is coming to the big screen.
Yeah. Everything is bass backwards.
Isn't it
in a
though?
big way? Yeah. Wow. You want to talk about the shifting landscape of films and entertainment? It's everything's been turned inside out. The YouTubers working on shoestring budgets are bringing in the hundreds of millions.
Oh yeah.
Whereas the giant tentpole franchise films that are fueled by hundreds of millions of dollars are getting trounced. It's interesting.
Yeah, corporate-tainment, corporate-tainment is suffering. And I mean, we'll see. I think that Avengers film is going to be very interesting to watch. Though at the same time, people seem to be really excited for the new Spider-Man movie. I don't see the cynicism falling over people that are waiting for that movie, and it's part of the same universe, part of the Marvel universe. But for some reason, that cynicism that has taken hold around the new Avengers film Spider-Man seems to be immune to it. And the trailers, every time they drop, they're breaking records on views, and I'm not seeing the usual hit squad out on YouTube firing bullets at Spider-Man like they are Star Wars every day, and the MCU in general every day. So,
well, in some ways, Star Wars made its own bed, and now they have to sleep in it. We are looking at, you want to talk about post-sequel trilogy. We're in the post-Kathleen Kennedy era of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Where really it's like, the dust is still settling on some of the nukes she dropped on the franchise before heading out the door. And Spider-Man doesn't necessarily suffer from that kind of thing.
That's true.
Not all Marvel characters have the strength of a Spider-Man, and that's been proven. They're not all equal. Not all Marvel characters are equal. There's been surprises throughout the years, definitely, but I think we're at the end of the age of the nerd. So it might be corporate entertainment,
right?
But I think the age of the nerd, the mainstream age of the nerd, has come to a halt.
Yep.
And people are looking for something different now.
Yeah.
So it's up to the franchises now to break through. The challenge is on them.
The idea,
and all people want is a good story. That's all people want is a good story.
Yes, that's right. And the idea of nerds making nerdy movies for nerds.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the general public is concerned, I think you're absolutely right. I think that it's over. It may have overstayed its welcome. Now, that doesn't mean that franchises like Star Wars and the MCU aren't going to continue. They're absolutely going to continue. But it means that they're going to have to start speaking again to a broader audience and not just the insiders. If they're making these movies just for this finite audience, that's when things get really tricky. I'm not saying that you don't honor the fans, respect the fans. That means you don't rewrite lore. You don't screw around with casting and characters and all of that stuff. You respect the material, but you also know that you have to make it for a broader audience because you're trying to build audience. There used to be a time where, you were trying to get as many people to see your art as possible. That was a part of the success. And there was kind of an arrogance that settled in the era of the nerd. Like, we're making this for us, man, not for anybody else. This is just for us. And well, where did you get it? Where did that get you?
That's a lot to swallow right there. We think things are bad for Star Wars. Supergirl is coming up this weekend, and she's saying, "Hold my beer." She's saying that loud and clear because, that film is on a budget very similar to Mandalorian and Grogu, but early estimates are claiming that Supergirl is going to be lucky to pull 50 million on its opening weekend, and then we'll see probably a similar drop off that the Mandalorian and Grogu suffered from in its second week, and it won't even come close to clearing its budget. So,
I can't for the life of me figure out why they would choose to follow up that last Superman film with a Supergirl movie. I cannot figure it out. When you have one of the richest catalogs of characters to play with within that DC universe, you follow it up with Supergirl. I mean, nothing against Supergirl, but she's a C-list superhero. I'm sorry, she is. When it comes to the DC universe, she'd be great as a surprise character to show up in the next Superman movie. Oh, cool! Look at Supergirl, great. Right. But anchoring an entire film? Who are they making this for? Anyway,
I like the dog. I do like the dog.
I like the dog too.
I hear you. Why Supergirl? Obviously, Batman is tied up with the Matt Reeves.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
They're not going to throw another Batman movie into production. And once with DC, you have Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And once you get past them, it's slim pickings as far as building a film franchise around a character. The days of pulling up an Iron Man and finding that perfect casting and surprising the world with your Iron Man movie, those days are over with. You're not going to have these B-listers and C-listers headlining films anymore. Those days are over. I'm surprised they even happened in the first place. Yeah. But again, we went through the age of the nerd. So, but that age is at an end. It's at an end, and I hate to see it hitting Star Wars the way it is with the Mandalorian and Grogu, but that's not the movie that film goers want to see from Star Wars. It's just not the movie. There's no, the stakes are so small.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem with it. It's, like I said, filled with magic, and it presents me with a lot of moments that I really, really enjoy. But it's not the movie that people wanted to see coming from Star Wars in 2026. All signs are pointing toward
absence.
All signs are pointing to Starfighter, but this was not the big splash that the fan base nor general audiences were looking for.
Yeah.
But Supergirl, hold my beer. Masters of the Universe. They were like, hold our keg with those guys. I think their budget was more than Mandalorian and Grogu. So,
yeah, sometimes things worked as cartoons, after school or on Saturday mornings, for a they're cartoons for a reason, And Masters is one of those, and I know they're working on a live action Voltron, and there's been talk of a live action Thundercats, and I mean, look at the live action G.I. Joe films. I love G.I. Joe cartoons and comics as a kid, and I think there's a possibility to make a great G.I. Joe movie, Transformers pulled it off. They've had a whole series of really good movies. That first Transformers movie in particular was fantastic. It's possible, but it's rare, and I think that's what they're discovering with Masters. I think this new Masters of the Universe will be a cult classic, just like the '80s one was, and maybe there will be a low budget sequel or a lower budget sequel, or maybe it'll be a made for Netflix thing. Who knows? But yeah, sometimes things are cartoons for a reason. Hey, before we get into headlines, we've got some headlines we want to get to, but we always want to bring you the latest and greatest happening over on Rebel Force Radio's Patreon. So if this is the type of conversation you want to hear more of, there's a lot more of it over on Patreon.
So much happening on Patreon every week. If you want more Rebel Force Radio and more Star Wars conversation, you'll find it at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. I'm talking about bonus exclusive podcasts. I'm talking about early bird ad-free releases. I'm talking about full show video and access to a great community of Star Wars super fans who listen to Rebel Force Radio, and you get to know them all through a show like RFR Q&A, which is hosted by RFR VIPs. You can become a VIP by just supporting Rebel Force Radio with the appropriate tier, and then you become eligible to host an episode of RFR Q&A with me. And also, you're in charge of the topic of conversation. And this week, we have a great RFR VIP returning to the Q&A. It's Dominique Guérin from Quebec. And Dominique joins me to talk about all things Empire, and most specifically, how Star Wars can continue telling stories into the future without the Empire. We know that story's already been told, and the Empire is, I think, finally once and for all, dead and buried. So the real challenge is for future storytellers to create entertainment in the Star Wars universe with a new foe. We need something else to challenge our heroes in Star Wars beyond the Empire. And that is going to be the true challenge as Star Wars moves ahead into the future. We discuss on the Q&A. Plus, me and Dom talk about Maul Shadow Lord. Does Darth Maul carry a colostomy bag? You can't get this kind of Star Wars conversation anywhere else. Now, Dom is a doctor, so we come at this topic of conversation from a very clinical approach, and so keep that in mind. But then again, I'm on the other microphone, so get what you get. You get what you get. So that's what's happening on RFR on Patreon this week. We want you to join. Only $2 and you're listening, and then of course you can contribute up to our VIP tier. And the next thing you know, you're co-hosting an episode of RFR Q&A with yours truly. Looking forward to talking to everyone who listens to Rebel Force Radio. I really feel like the community we've built on Patreon is something pretty damn special. It was certainly on display in Cleveland for our big Mandalorian and Grogu after show event last month, and it continues at RFR on Patreon. Patreon.com is the place to go. Join the party. Get more RFR in your life. Patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news. Come closer, I have good news.
All right, we got a little Starfighter news here for everybody. Matt Smith of Doctor Who fame. Isn't that why everybody knows Matt Smith? Isn't he one of the Doctors Who? Mm-hmm. That talk about being at a tough crossroads as a franchise. That franchise is on ice right now. It is. Yeah, there is no active production of a Doctor Who series for the first time in decades, as I understand it. I am not a Doctor Who expert, but that's just some of the things that I have been picked up on the internet. So yeah, that's tough. That's tough. We don't want Star Wars to get that way. And so hopefully, and Star Trek too, with the new regime there that took over at Paramount, there's all of the in development stuff that was happening within the Star Trek universe has been halted. I'm sure there's discussions going on and ideas being talked about, but for all intents and purposes, Star Trek is also on ice. So, hey, the grass isn't always greener here, folks. But anyway, Matt Smith.
That's right.
Back to Matt
not
Smith.
all franchises can just fart them out every couple years, unless, of course, you're the James Bond franchise, which, I guess they're also kind of struggling to restart things as well. Yeah. So, but Matt Smith.
Yes.
He's not in the running for James Bond. He's no longer a Doctor Who. So what else is he going to do? Join Star Wars, of course. Matt appeared recently on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast with Josh Horowitz. He's out there promoting House of Dragons. Or is it House of the Dragon? It's a Game of Thrones spinoff that is ready to launch its third season. Yeah. And Matt Smith is in this show. And he's out and about, and he's doing media to promote the House of the Dragons. Again, everybody's screaming at their speaker.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell I don't watch it? But so the first stop Matt made on his promotional tour was the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast with Josh Horowitz, entertainment reporter Josh Horowitz, and he talked a little bit about Starfighter.
Obviously, to do a movie, I mean, Sean's an amazing creative person. He's an amazing creative. I don't know if you've ever interviewed him.
He's the most positive force on the planet, right?
Yeah. It's a pretty incredible thing to be around on a film set, his energy. And I just tapped into that. I imagine maybe Ryan had put in a good word for me or something. I don't know.
Right.
But I can't imagine that I'd have got close to it otherwise, really. On mere talent alone.
Please.
And I was so I went and had this meeting, and Sean explained the character to me and the world and who else was going to be in it potentially. And I was just like, wow, this is, to do a movie of like that that has real scale, global scale, but also has the sort of the tone and the temperament and the quality and the sort of level of human detail that I think it might have. I think it's going to be really good.
All right. Okay. It's going to be really good. He says when he referred to Ryan, is he talking about Ryan Johnson?
No, I think he's talking about Ryan Gosling.
Oh, Ryan Gosling was the one that might have tossed his name, Matt's name, into the hopper. Yeah, I was like, okay, so maybe they had worked together before. I don't know, but at any rate, I guess I went into this thinking that Matt was being considered because he was almost in The Rise of Skywalker. And so that this was kind of a make good in a way, or at least he was on the short list of people they wanted to work with. But according to Matt Smith, that may not be the case. He was tossing out the idea that Ryan Gosling may have been the one to bring him to Sean Levy's attention.
And of course, he says some nice things about Sean Levy and just how he's bringing a lot of good energy to the shoot. And most importantly, though, he tells us it's going to be really good. So Matt Smith, he wants us to buy tickets for sure. But at the very end of the interview, it's revealed that Matt had not seen a Star Wars movie prior to shooting Starfighter. And even more interesting, he still has yet to see a Star Wars movie. So he's just in the movies. He's not actually going to watch them.
Really? But I mean, he's a human being. I get that he's an actor, but he's the right age, I would assume, to have at least encountered a Star Wars movie. I feel like
man.
There's people I feel like they go out of their way to not see a Star Wars movie.
Some people do.
There's weird people everywhere, Jim. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Weirdos.
They wear it as a badge of honor almost.
Yeah.
So if you ever meet anybody like that, just slap them right across the face. Don't say a word. Just do it. And then call us at
What's
Rebel
wrong
Force
with
Radio.
you?
Yeah. Yeah, just give them a good slap, a hearty slap right across the face. I'm not promoting any sort of like violence or anything, but this is more for their own good.
Yeah.
To slap some sense into them. That's what I'm trying to say. So Matt continued on his tour. House of the Dragon is the name of the show.
All right.
I guess there's only one dragon and one house.
Houses of the Dragons, not, yeah. All right.
I would say, Houses of the Dragons. No, House of the Dragon. And Matt Smith is in the house, and he was also in the house at the Today Show, where he also talked a little bit about Starfighter. Kind of repeats the same talking points he brings up with Happy, Sad, Confused, but he also reveals something else at the very end that we might find interesting.
You're also, of course, in this new Star Wars film, Star Wars Starfighter, playing opposite Ryan Gosling.
The great Ryan Gosling.
And you're playing a villain.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe. Am I?
Are you?
I don't know. You tell me. Maybe.
What can you tell us about your character without having...
I can't really tell you much about the character, but I can tell you that I think the film's going to be absolutely blinding. I think it's going to be brilliant, truly. I was so excited and thrilled to be on it. Mia Goth, fantastic. Ryan's just a great leader, and Sean is, a real top director. So it was brilliant.
So it's finished.
It's finished. It's done. Yeah, it's in the can. I might even go and watch it today. Can you believe that?
You may actually see the end of the film today.
There's a rough cut. There's kind of rough.
Okay.
So I might go and check that out next.
Oh, there's a rough cut. We're still a year away from the release of this thing. Now, when he says rough cut, I wonder if that means that there's no effects, no special effects in it, like that rough, or maybe they still have to refine some of the effects. I don't know. Would they be screening even for the actors something that didn't have something, especially a Star Wars film, that didn't have the effects, at least in some fashion, put in there?
Well, with what they can do with the animatics these days, it's they can probably animatics probably make it into the movie nowadays. It's so advanced. But I just found it interesting that he's going to watch a rough cut of the film. So at least we see that there is a lot of progress being made with this film. If they're that far along in the process, it does seem sort of odd that one of the actors is watching the film in such a incomplete state.
As far as
maybe
that's
just the way, but if that's what Sean Levy wants to do, that's what he's going to do. Maybe that's just how he approaches it. Maybe he's looking for some collaboration on some specific scenes or some feedback about the editing, and he's looking at some of his actors to provide that. But it seems very strange that he is screening a rough cut of the film. And it's got to be, like you said, very incomplete.
Yeah.
And also I noted that Matt Smith, he's in New York talking to the Today Show. So we know that top secrets Lucasfilm Disney facilities are located in California and stuff. And Sean Levy is probably there.
Yeah. Is he getting like a special link that's going to let him watch it remotely or something?
That seems kind of sloppy.
Yeah, right.
Look for this sucker to be on the internet by this weekend.
Right. I do want to point out that, look, Sean Levy, we love you. We love your enthusiasm. But could we get another photo from this film, please? Because we're tired of looking at these two. Even the Port Today show, all they got is the shot with Ryan and Flynn on the set, and then, of course, the black and white shot of them sitting on the speeder. So we're less than a year away. Can we get another photo, please?
Yeah. Give us some stuff, will you? We need some stuff. I think they're waiting for The Mandalorian and Grogu to complete its theatrical run. I love the idea you brought up a couple of weeks ago about tacking on fresh footage from Starfighter to maybe the end of The Mandalorian and Grogu and make it a real event, or put on, a few minutes at the very beginning, or a sizzle reel or some sort of trailer for Starfighter, and use that to hype Mandalorian and Grogu and drive some more seats into the butts while that film was still in the theaters. Obviously, they're not taking that approach.
No.
I think we would have heard about it by now.
I think so. And plus, they would owe me royalties on that idea.
Well, yeah, they owe us. Jeez, do they owe Rebel Force Radio? My goodness. I know there's people at Lucasfilm who still sit and listen to the show and take notes. I know it happens.
Hey, Jake Lloyd here, Anakin Skywalker from The Phantom Menace. Now this is podcasting.
So, Jim, there has just been a slew of clickbaity articles and quick hits about this notion of the game plan, the blueprint, the future of Star Wars. But there is somebody out there that's sort of the origin of a lot of this, Jeff Snyder, and that's somebody that you have put some stock into in the past, and have felt has been a pretty reliable source. So a lot of these rumors are coming from a report that he has done. So why don't we work through some of these and say whether or not we think there's much validity to it.
Okay, just in the sake of accuracy, this does come from entertainment reporter Jeff Snyder, who released this on his newsletter, which I think you have to pay.
Yeah, it's behind a paywall.
So I don't. But the folks at comicbook.com do, and they're the ones who kind of compiled all of this information.
One of the rumors that's floating around is that the new Disney brass, in the wake of The Mandalorian and Grogu's performance at the box office, you can characterize it however you want, but that the rumor is that they have called a sort of a come to Jesus with the Lucasfilm, the Dave Filoni and his co-president, whose name escapes me at the moment, but that they had kind of a come to Jesus, like, here's what you're going to do. Like, this is what we want from you all. According to this source, Lucasfilm will reportedly target an audience aged 10 to 70. Isn't that like that Christmas song from 1 to 92?
Yeah,
so they basically want Star Wars to be targeted to everyone who loves Christmas. Basically, it's the same age range. So it's a huge range, but they do have a stated focus, allegedly, on teens and young adults, anchored by, now this is curious, PG-13 ratings, which would be not typical for Star Wars. It has been done, but it's not typical for Star Wars.
Right. Yeah, I think number one, ages 10 to 70, that's really narrowing it down. I mean, you're dealing with some broad tastes there. I think that's just what they're trying to push forward, is trying to tell a story that will have universal appeal. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. It's to which age group it appeals to. Make it appeal to all of them. And I'll tell you what, that's exactly what George Lucas, I believe, was trying to do with the original Star Wars, because he researched the history of myth and storytelling and narrative to such a degree he became an expert in it. And he was able to apply all of that knowledge to the way he crafted Star Wars by looking at all the timeless tales told throughout history, whether it be biblical or fairy tale or what have you. He was diving into it to try to figure out what they all contained and possessed to make them have the longevity and universal appeal, and then apply it to his script for Star Wars. That's shooting for the stars, literally.
Right.
But you have to put in the legwork. And AI isn't going to tell you how to do it. There was a very human approach that George Lucas took to all of this, a very organic approach into which he was researching things that he believed contained the proper ingredients to tell his space opera. So that's what in this studio mandate, by the way, I do know this comes from Disney. Apparently, Snyder says it was a 19-page document listing studio mandates for this summer and beyond. And there's some pretty interesting info.
So this is coming from Disney to Lucasfilm. Is that what you're?
Well, yes, I think yes. Yeah, I mean, it also
these are your marching
think,
orders, basically.
Right. Post Mandalorian and Grogu. So he also has information pertaining to Disney Pictures, 20th Century Fox Studios, Searchlight Pictures, but we're only concerned with the Lucasfilm stuff primarily. And that's what comicbook.com has done. Now, Snyder does say that there was a really these are his words, there was a really juicy nugget in this external document about future TV plans for Star Wars. But after checking in with insiders, I learned it was inaccurate. So I pulled it, as there's no point in getting you nerds excited about something that in all likelihood isn't going to happen. Well, so if that really juicy nugget was contained in this document and it was shot down, then I hope that Snyder did the research to make sure that all of the rest of this stuff is indeed legit.
It sounds like that's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. I think that's what he's saying. But, we asked some people too who might be in the know about some of this stuff, and they push back on some of it.
Yeah.
So we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. All right, so the next one is AI will reportedly be used to generate environments and visual effects. So if this is coming from Disney, they're basically giving the studios the green light. Hey, AI is here. You might as well use it. It's going to, in some ways, cut costs, make things easier. Why? Look, it'd be like saying to George Lucas, you can't use CGI to generate effects. I think that's, you might disagree with that. I'm just saying that I think that's what the logic some of these people are using, which is, look, this is the future. This is like any other emerging technology, so you're either going to use it or be eaten by it. So we might as well use it.
Well, obviously for things like environments and visual effects, I mean, you're not talking about bringing in AI to replace actors. There's still going to need to be artistry involved. But AI will be used as a tool, to help with I believe, some more of the labor-intensive, mundane activities that computer programmers and animators have to do. This will take some of the workload off the table. So
there's
these
a lot
animators
of tedious work in this stuff, in special effects, and so it's not about necessarily, removing the human element, but if you can get some of that grunt work handled by AI, why not? Why not? And let the creatives have more time, more bandwidth to create.
Exactly. And so that would probably lead us to some much better looking stuff, actually, at the end of the day. We won't be looking at shoddy CG and thinking to ourselves, oh God, that was rushed, which we've heard in so many productions coming from Marvel, coming from DC, where they say that they're overworking their animators and they're coming up with less than desirable special effects. So if AI can help take the workload off of these guys when it comes to the more mundane activities of an animator or a computer programmer, then I'm fine with that. I don't see anything wrong with it. I'll draw the line when AI is creating the entire film. Somebody punched in a prompt and now we have a major motion picture. Something doesn't feel right about that. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
This next one is an interesting direction. It says creatives will reportedly have to build stories that fit within Filoni's overarching framework. That is something we have not seen in the Disney era. What we've seen in the Disney era is Kathleen Kennedy or somebody like that going around and cherry picking various creatives because she likes their vibe, their aesthetic, or whatever, and then saying, "Oh, give me a you Star Wars." And so you had these creatives pitching all these different types of stories in different timelines or eras of the Star Wars universe. And so it was very, very chaotic. So if Filoni is creating the framework of where, okay, we're going to at least create parameters of where the sandbox is. Now you're welcome to come in and play, but here are the barriers and here are the guides on the road, the lines on the road. That's very different. And I like this. I like this.
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, obviously, Dave must have an overarching framework for this to even be mentioned.
Yeah.
So that sounds very promising to me because a lot of Star Wars throughout Kathleen Kennedy's era, it was being done by the seat of their pants. They were under extreme deadlines placed by Disney Corporate and Bob Iger. Extreme deadlines. I mean, he was placing deadlines before they even had the idea for something. And he's like, okay, movie, Star Wars, movie.
Yeah.
Make it.
Yeah.
Okay. Boy. So that's why we are primarily where we're at right now. When you talk about an overarching framework, that gets me pretty excited because that indicates to me there's a master plan at play here, that they actually are going somewhere with this thing. They have a sense of direction and a unified vision. That's what we need for Star Wars. And we need that consistency, and we need it now because things are in trouble. We need to have an audience that is fully invested in the stories that are being told. And you can't make that happen with 3 distinctly different streaming series a year and films that are just jumping all over the place in the timeline. It needs to have that focus. They need to put an end to the identity crisis that Star Wars has been suffering from for several years now. And if you have an overarching framework from Dave Filoni, that gives me confidence. Just hearing this is a strong vote of confidence in Dave Filoni, a serious endorsement in his abilities to lead this thing. If all creatives now will have to reportedly fit into Dave's vision, because I think what was going on in the past was there was some civil war going on between Disney and Lucasfilm where a lot of different people were trying to get their projects done regardless of there was no framework for it.
No, there was no. It was all up to who has a good idea. You want to make a Guillermo? You want to make a Hutt movie? Oh, great, let's do that. Oh, Game of Thrones guys, you want to make a Star Wars BC Knights of the Old Republic thing? Oh, great, you'd be good at that. Like it was just so scattershot, and so based on the flavor of the month with some of these creatives. This is Star Wars. I don't care if you are Guillermo del Toro. Is your idea fit within the framework of what we want to, the stories that we want to tell? Okay, then we can talk. No offense to Guillermo, but I'm saying you need to say that this is an open season and anything goes. You got to have a direction to follow, and then you can get all your creative geniuses around. Now, this is where the pushback sort of came on this next one about the cadence. According to this, the stated cadence is reportedly 2 shows and 1 movie per year. And that's where we experience some pushback from our own sources that's too aggressive and very unlikely.
That's right, especially the 1 movie per year thing.
Yeah.
I think in an ideal world, that's where they would like to have it. Every year,
I think that's crazy.
A new Star Wars movie. But I think it's too much.
Yep,
I do think it's too much, and we'll see. We've already been through it once with the sequel trilogy and the Rogue One, and then Solo. Solo coming just 5 months after Episode 8, and that we all saw the results of that. People seemed pretty apathetic about the Solo film. And I think one movie per year might be pushing it too much, but that's what they want. So here we are going from Mandalorian this year into the Starfighter next year and the 50th anniversary of Star Wars and the re-release of A New Hope in IMAX. We'll see. We'll see how people react to all of that. Is that too much too fast? Again, Bob Iger even said it himself that they were pushing too much too fast. And that's why he said they needed to step back following the release of Rise of Skywalker. And they most certainly did step back. But I think Bob just meant slow it down. I don't think he was shooting for a 7-year hiatus.
No.
Lucasfilm couldn't get anything off the ground. And the reason they couldn't get anything off the ground is because there was no overarching framework. It was all just throwing stuff up against the wall to see what would stick. And that's Kathleen Kennedy's biggest failure. And the reason why it had to be that way is because Kathleen Kennedy never understood Star Wars, never cared for Star Wars, just didn't get it. She just didn't get it. So how do you feel about 2 shows and 1 movie per year? Would that be a rate at which you would be satisfied with Star Wars, or is that too much?
I think it's too much. 1 movie per year scares me. You got to keep it special, and I just to me that feels like some sort of arbitrary mandate so that they can keep the coffers full, and it's killing the golden goose. Star Wars is a golden goose, and the golden goose right now is on life support. There's still a heartbeat, and I think that it can be nursed back to health. But if you slaughter the goose and try to get all the golden eggs at once, then you have no future that way. 2 shows, if that overarching framework, it depends on how broad it is. Can an overarching framework support 2 shows? I'd like to see, what I'd like to see? I'd like to see 1 show with multiple seasons. How about that?
Yes.
1 show, multiple seasons instead of 2 shows a year.
Well, what if one of the shows is animation and the other show is live action?
I'm fine with that as long as there's continuity from year to year. I don't want a different show every year, That Marvel format where it's Loki this year and the next year it's, WandaVision and,
I think audiences are really burnt on that.
Yeah.
And it's all been catching up to the big corporations, right, that make this stuff. I think an animated series, a live action series, and a movie every other year would be the perfect cadence, as long as it all fits into that overarching framework and builds. It's a story that keeps building year after year. You don't have to make the show and the movie necessarily connect at all.
Right.
That's where, if you want to do your timeline separations, if you want to explore a different era in Star Wars, say that Star Wars BC kind of concept, that dawn of the Jedi idea, I think that would be great for the TV. And then with the movies, that's when you can do your episodes 10, 11, and 12.
Sure.
And have them come out every other year and just have years in between. No Star Wars in the theaters. But we're getting our rocks off with the Star Wars streaming show and the animated series that's also running. Yeah. But again, no more timeline jumping. I think it's fine to separate the streaming series from the live action, from the animation. Place those in different eras and have them build upon that. Just have it build year after year. I mean, that's a perfect 5-year plan, 5 to 7 years. And then you can blow it all up and start from scratch.
Yeah.
I mean,
and blow out a new
building
era
upon it. Or keep building upon it.
Right.
Whatever you want to do, it's all right there. Just this haphazard way of throwing different concepts, different characters, different parts of the timeline at us multiple times a year has created apathy amongst audiences.
Yeah, people throw their hands up. I don't know what Star Wars is anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars doesn't know what Star Wars is anymore.
Right.
Give us Filoni's overarching framework.
Standalone films will reportedly become rare with the focus shifting towards the next saga. No huge surprise there, but good to know because I just don't think that the whole standalone character-focused films is. I just don't. Again, that's television stuff. That's streaming stuff. I don't think it's big, epic film material. And this dovetails right into this, that same concept is that the films are reportedly expected to be epic, high stakes, carry a clear vision, establish worlds, and tell interconnected stories. The fact that this has to appear on a memo from Disney to Lucasfilm itself is a little disturbing. I mean, it seems like that's all like a given. I mean, you got to spell this out for these people.
That's something that concerns me about this entire memo in the first place, and makes me question its authenticity.
Okay,
is because this seems to be just like
it's still fun.
It's obvious. Fun yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I certainly hope Lucasfilm is taking some of this stuff to heart. But standalone films becoming rare, I think that experiment has kind of come to an end.
Mm-hmm.
I think it came to an end with the Solo film. But we have Mandalorian and Grogu, and everyone knows that's just filler.
Yeah,
to get Star Wars back into the theaters again. It is what it is. All right, it doesn't diminish the quality of the magic to me, but still, I mean, I can see what it is. So high stakes, epic adventures, carry a clear vision.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, really, a lot of this is Star Wars 101, but it did need to be put into a memo.
We're getting really specific with this next one. All shows. Now, they don't say films. They just said all shows will reportedly be set in the New Republic era, used as a sandbox to experiment with tone, genre, and structure. So 2 thoughts on this right away, Jim. New Republic era. We've been in the New Republic era for a while. That's what the Mandoverse has been. But I really am frightened of this word experiment, tone, genre, structure. Isn't that what we just got through? The last decade has been one big experiment. And why are you experimenting with something you know works? Star Wars works.
Yeah, that's it. And New Republic era.
Okay.
I think that by looking at maybe a different era, because we also know that the films are going to be set in the New Republic era. So they're looking for consistency here between the shows and the films. And now I think these suggestions are starting to paint you into a corner a little bit, because you do have other eras of Star Wars that are worthy of exploration. And I think that there should be maybe some separation between the shows and the films, just to keep it all fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Because you might start burning out the New Republic era if you're dropping 2 shows a year and 1 film a year. You're going to burn out that era in 2 or 3 years. So why not explore? Why not go for that Dawn of the Jedi show? Make it a TV show. Make it a 5 to 7 season long show, and have it completely disconnected from what's happening in the films. The films will be their own thing, and that's fine. That's fine. I think that's you're pushing Star Wars into achieving its full potential by doing it that way. And then you have an animated series set in a different time. We know that Maul season 2 is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that it's impossible for that show to be set in the New Republic era. So right there, we're seeing a crack in the armor.
It says all shows.
I did hear that season 2 of the Maul show is going to see a significant jump in time from the end of season 1. Yeah, I did hear that.
We speculated about that quite a bit.
So I think we're going to see that. How many years? I don't know. But I do know in the Solo film, when Maul shows up via hologram at the end, he asks Kira to meet him on Dathomir. So I'm assuming that's where Maul is going to establish his criminal enterprise headquarters, is on the planet Dathomir.
Mm-hmm.
And and we also know that that's where Thrawn is heading in Ahsoka season 2.
Right.
Is to the planet Dathomir. So it's hard to say if we're going to see any sort of crossover between the Maul show and the Ahsoka show as far as the planet Dathomir goes. But we also know that, well, it's hard to say. The Empire essentially, it wasn't the Empire, it was the Separatists. They went to the planet Dathomir in Tales of the Empire, and they apparently wiped out everyone on the planet, right?
Yes, right.
Or at least all the Night Sisters.
Right.
So I'm assuming that Thrawn took all of their corpses.
Yes.
No, that doesn't make any sense, because he took the Night Sisters from the catacombs on Peridia.
Yes, which was in the other galaxy.
Right. So these Night Sisters have no relation to the Night Sisters who were wiped out by
These are the Peridian Night Sisters, I guess.
So I'm going to start calling this the RFR timeline brain freeze when it happens, because it hits me like when you drink the Slurpee too fast.
Right.
And I'm trying to organize. So that's why we maybe need all shows to be set in the New Republic era.
Right. At least for a little while. Give us a break of this hopping around. All right. Another one here. Both animation and live action series will reportedly continue. That's good to know. That's great.
Yeah.
We're good about that. Now, here's one, and I think I said these very words earlier. Star Wars has to remain special. Now, this is reportedly an explicit directive, but it feels like that runs contrary to the ambition of 2 shows and 1 movie per year. If you have a constant fountain of storytelling, content, shows, movies, it's going to be it's going to be a big challenge to have it remain special. Commodities are not considered specials. What makes something special typically is because of its rarity.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a big challenge for them.
Yeah. Infrequent access.
Yeah.
Makes something special. And I don't know if 2 series and 1 film a year actually qualifies for something like infrequent access. So I want as much Star Wars as you can throw at me. But I hear what you're saying about making it special too.
Yeah.
It needs
we
to be
don't want to kill the golden
goose. We need to anticipate it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to desire it. It needs to fill a void. And if we have it all the time, then it's not that special.
And I also think that part of the secret sauce of this franchise was the time periods where it existed in our heads and the stories we told ourselves. To your point about anticipation, and if we're constantly being flooded with it, it doesn't settle and digest the way that it traditionally has. And that can be a challenge. But again, I mean, I'm expecting it to behave and operate the way it did from 1977 to 2005, and it's not going to. It can't.
No.
Even George realized as he was, thinking about, prior to selling Lucasfilm, he was thinking about having an active production studio there. He was talking about building facilities and all of that. And he knew that if he was going to do that, he had to have more Star Wars stories. He had to have something that was fueling and that he was producing and he was creating. So I think even had George stayed in control, he was going to have to increase the frequency and lessen the specialness of Star Wars in order to for these production studios or his production studio to to work.
Yeah.
And to make money.
He has 50 scripts for the live action show.
Yeah, and how about
Star
that
Wars
rumor,
Underworld?
Real quick, I got to throw this out. That we can talk about it next week. We can tease people, but that Ian McDiarmid said at a convention over the last weekend, that George Lucas pitched him on a Palpatine series.
Well, that was Underworld. We did hear
think that was Underworld?
Oh yeah, without question. Because we heard that Palpatine was going to be in it. We heard that we would see sort of like the origin of his evilness. That he was...
That was going to be part of Underworld?
Yes. He would have been betrayed by a woman. And that would have pushed him to the dark side for good.
Wow, okay.
Yes,
So flashbacks. So McDiarmid talking about this, whether he realizes it or not, he's talking about Underworld. Okay.
Yeah.
All
George didn't have any other shows in development. It was all about he was fully invested in Star Wars Underworld. Like I said, he was having writers
it's not going to
meetings.
involve any of the major characters. It's not going to involve any of the major characters. It's going to be different characters. No, you're talking to McDiarmid about a major arc.
Well, yeah. You know, when he first was envisioning Star Wars Underworld, he was saying things like the characters might get talked about and their presence would be acknowledged, but the stories wouldn't necessarily be about them.
Mm-hmm.
But then someone like Ronald D. Moore presents Lucas with the origin of Palpatine, and Lucas eats it up. Oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was thinking.
Right.
Of course it was a woman. You know? Can we name her Linda Ronstadt? No, we cannot name Palpatine's girlfriend Linda Ronstadt.
All right, how about Marcia Ronstadt? Marcia Ronstadt.
That was I think it was Rick McCallum who spoke about that.
All right. Well, good. Okay.
Ago.
That makes sense. Because I was reading that and I'm like, what the hell is McDiarmid talking about? Okay. Last one here. Lucasfilm will reportedly court emerging and established talent with particular emphasis on the 18 to 25 bracket. Court emerging and established talent.
But does that mean to be in front of the camera or behind the camera?
Yeah, that's kind of vague. Yeah. Right. Good point. But in front of the camera, behind the camera, particular emphasis on the 18 to 25 bracket. Yeah. I think that this sounds to me, Jim, like what probably happened. I don't think Snyder had the memo. I think somebody that read the memo told Snyder about it, and these are notes. I just that just seems way too vague, or that there's much more to it.
Well, again, we're looking at the comicbook.com.
We are, but I would assume that comicbook.com would have, if they had access to Jeff's newsletter, would have done it justice by providing us with, whatever context is needed. So I don't know. What am I going to do? How much is that goddamn thing? Do I need to go? Can I get past issues of it so I can read the whole thing?
Well, I'm thinking it's $10 a month, $100 a year.
It might have to be an RFR expense here.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, we sound like such cheap a-holes right now anyway.
I don't know.
Here we are
$10,
reporting
guys.
on it, relying on something called comicbook.com for coverage. What's happened to us here? But Snyder says he received the 19-page
he received
document.
it. Okay. All right.
He received. He also refers to it, though, as an external document.
An external document.
Puts external, and he puts external in italics. So I don't know what he's saying.
By external, I mean, I guess, is he external as in it would not have been, not external as in public facing, maybe external as in it originated outside of Lucasfilm, but from parent company Disney. If that's what he's implying, like this is externally being pushed onto Lucasfilm from the parent company versus internal, this bubble was bubbling up through Lucasfilm, and these are their own guidelines that they're working through.
Okay. I guess that works. It seemed like he was being very specific when he says that. External.
But external would imply public facing, as in you have internal documents and you have external documents, and external documents are things that that the public would have access to.
Right.
So anyway, I don't know. But I mean, there's a lot of, there's a lot of good in this. And then there's a lot of head scratchers too. Time will tell.
Yes, indeedy. I just like the idea of having a solid vision for Star Wars. I'm sick and tired of being jerked around by this, and I'm tired of talking about it too. You guys must think we love talking about this. I wish this would go away forever. We could get back to obsessing over quality Star Wars storytelling. But until that happens, we're only going to be constantly airing our wish lists for Star Wars until we start seeing some obvious change. I think we're all kind of stung from the acolyte still. And I mean, that means whether you liked it or not, because the people who didn't like it were stung by it as it was airing, and the people who did like it got stung by it after it was canceled.
Right.
So
right.
That was, that whole experience turned out to be the biggest lose for Star Wars of all time.
It didn't please anyone.
At the end of the day,
right.
Everyone is left with a bad taste in their mouth about the acolyte, whether you liked it or not. And that just sucks. That really, really sucks. And we're licking our wounds now in the year 2026, and people seem kind of apathetic about Star Wars. That's got to change. We got to change that. We got to change that. What are we going to do? Storm Lucas?
We're going to take to the streets. Let's go.
All right, Swank, hit the editing bays. Stat. Yeah. It's not going to happen. But what I just mean is we, and at least I am going to maintain my optimism for the future of the franchise, as I always have, and try to put some of their past failures behind us, Leave the past in the past at this point. If Dave Filoni has an overarching vision for Star Wars, then bring it. We want that framework desperately.
Hey, this is Dave Filoni, and you are listening to Rebel Force Radio with Jason and Jimmy.
Steve Sansweet-san, Mr. Steve Sansweet from Lucasfilms.
In the Star Wars trilogy, the rebellion fought against the tyrannical empire. Now a marketing empire has us running in circles for a pristine version of a figure 50,000 people already have. Price guides and eBay auctions have us all believing we'll be Steven Sansweet, but we won't.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Steve Sansweet.
Hey.
Wow.
I got my earphones on.
That's
you
good.
do.
Can you read us good, buddy?
Yep.
Excellent.
Can you hear me?
You need to pull the microphone down. See the microphone there? It's on your head. Don't you see it? No. Where is the microphone?
I think it is right there. There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. That's what I thought it was. Okay.
These are Bob's headphones, so I've never used them before.
All right.
Bob's headphones.
That's great. You can also call in airplanes and all kinds of things with those. Well, that's a heck of an entrance that you made there, Steve. We appreciate it. But well, hey, we're here to talk about Star Wars and all the amazing things happening with respect to Rancho Obi-Wan and the future of Rancho, which is the Saga Museum, and the very present of all of that, which is the Saga Vault. And I got to admit, Jimmy sort of kept me a little bit in the dark. I know that he was involved in some things in Chicago, and you were in the Chicago area, Steve, and I'm guessing that all that clandestine activity had something to do with this the Saga Vault that's going to be premiering on YouTube.
Absolutely. So it premiered last Friday, and the second episode will go up this Friday on the Cinema Relics YouTube site. There will be links on Cinema Relics and on our social media for Rancho Obi-Wan and the Saga Vault.
It's the Cinema Relics YouTube channel. And as soon as I clicked on here, I go, I recognize that guy. He's a phenomenal film historian, and particularly with props and relics from films and all of that. So how did the Saga Museum and Rancho Obi-Wan and you, Steve, get mixed up with the good folks there at Cinema Relics?
Well, Dan, as you know, as you said, is a longtime prop collector. He worked on the Prop Culture series for Disney Plus, which aired a couple of years ago.
That's where I recognize, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he has an amazing collection of movie props. And he and Gus Lopez had been friends for a long time. And Dan came up with the idea of doing some sort of almost like a game show that involved the 4 collections and led to the Saga Museum, and came up with the name the Saga Vault, which we twisted around for early T-shirts, Salt the Guava. And of course, somebody
Who came
guessed
up with Salt the Guava? Who came up with that? I want to know.
I think Ann or somebody
Ann did,
did. Yeah.
That sounds like an Ann Newmanism. Salt the Guava. And I love listening to you say it. Just that phrase alone.
Salt the Guava.
Oh, yes. Salt the Guava. Yeah, so that's a fun little tease. And tell us, what is the game show aspect of this entire production? How does it all go down?
So the Cinema Relics crew and Dan came up with a bunch of categories and sent them out to the owners of the 4 collections. And we had to tell them what we intended to bring for each of the categories. But we didn't know each other's selections. And they made some suggestions. They accepted most things, but some things they said, well, that interferes with this, or that isn't cool enough, or please bring this. And we all came with our objects hidden from each other, and we they built this amazing set, and we sat around this semicircle, and Dan was the MC and host, and we wore blindfolds as they brought out each piece, and then opened our eyes.
Sounds like a Stanley Kubrick movie here.
I know what movie you're referring to, and I don't think there was any of that going on at the time. But our eyes were definitely wide shut.
There you go.
So then the object was to vote on which piece would make the Saga Vault. Everything eventually is going to be in the Saga Museum, but to be selected as the key piece of these 4, and the first category was The Mandalorian. So the first show is The Mandalorians. The second is Darth Vader objects.
Wow.
So we had to come up with objects that we thought would win the vote of our fellow collectors and the public, because after it airs on Friday, the public gets a chance to vote. You just screen the URL code and go to the site and vote for your choice. So it's really the public that makes the difference. And in the first show, we had a tie vote, 2, 2, and 1.
Oh.
So it was really the public's decision as what to vote for. And we just announced what that was on the Cinema Relics Wednesday update. So every Wednesday we'll announce how the public voted for the preceding Friday's show. And the winner gets a trophy that they've made that looks like the door to the Saga Vault that they made as it opens. So it's very cool.
Oh, that is very cool. And so So far, the categories you said there was The Mandalorian. That one already aired, so we know who the winner is. No spoilers in case people are jumping over to YouTube right now to watch it. And then you said there's Darth Vader. What are the other categories?
Well, some of them are, let me see, I have a list here.
And the idea was that you went through your collection and tried to pick a piece that best exemplified that particular category.
Each of these categories. And
you're
everybody
in
else
competition with your fellow collectors.
with Gus Lopez, Duncan Jenkins, and Lisa Stevens and Vic Wertz. Wow. So it's a pretty tough competition, let me tell you.
Yeah.
A lot of it had to do with what we could physically take to Chicago, where the episodes were recorded.
Okay.
So, and we have some guests on the show too. Michael Wistock, who's a director of Rancho Obi-Wan, his wife, Red Dodge, Ann Newman, who's the president and chief exec of Rancho Obi-Wan, Ann Jenkins, Duncan Jenkins' wife. And there's somebody else. I can't remember.
Very forgettable, I'm sure. Probably doesn't matter.
He didn't make much of an impact. Oh, yeah, it's that guy, Jimmy Mack.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Of course. Right. There he is. I see him. I'd recognize him anywhere. Wow. There.
Look at
we'll see if that episode actually airs.
Yeah, see,
I heard the censors are having a hard time with it, you know.
Well, that's why I didn't bring it up, because I'm fearing the cutting room floor at all times. So, but if Steve is saying I'm on the show, I'm on the show.
We have seen like one or two rough cut episodes, and then the rest are just totally new to us too.
Wow!
So that's part of the fun, and then learning who the people voted for is part of the fun too.
Yeah, so it's very much audience participation, which is great, like
very much.
American Idol or, you know, something like that. So the judges vote, and then it's up to the public.
Yeah, so I think the show that you're on, Jimmy, is cast and crew items.
That's right. Yes. We had a great time. I drove out to the top secret location, Dan Lanigan's warehouse, which was one of the most amazing places I've ever been. It's a palace of creativity. It really is. And then he has his collection there in a warehouse, and it's the most incredible personal collection I've ever seen of movie memorabilia and props. It's props, primarily props, wardrobe. He had the Daggett from the original Battlestar Galactica. He had so many different things. He had a little stunt miniature of the Blues Brothers car. And Dan graciously gave me a tour of this entire collection, and it just blew my mind.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
I've never seen anything like it. It's
my mind
definitely museum worthy, but no Star Wars. And I asked Dan why. I said, "What? You obviously love Star Wars. You have so many different props and costumes from sci-fi and horror and similar genres, but you have no Star Wars." And he said it's because of friendships he has with guys like you, Steve Sansweet, and Gus Lopez. He doesn't want to compete with you.
And he would be a tough competitor, let me tell you. He's well known in the prop collecting community, and as you said, his location. I just saw Jar Jar's backside.
Yeah, well, that's what happens sometimes here on Rebel Force Radio. You never know what Jason's going to put up on the screen, and he's just showing off the trailer for the Saga Vault. But you were talking about Dan's location, you said?
Yeah, it's amazing. As you said, it's not only a museum quality collection, but he has it arranged in a museum archives type way. I mean, it's just beautifully arranged, and he knows where everything is, I guess. I don't know how.
Right. You can sort of relate to those challenges, I'm sure.
I can.
So let me ask you, Steve, when you got these categories, I know Anne has done and others have done phenomenal jobs helping you archive and catalog and all that. But so let's say you have this category Darth Vader. Now you might have areas there at Rancho. I don't recall if you have like a a location where you kind of keep all your Vader stuff. I see, Vader sort of everywhere. How do you go about, going and looking through, or do you just, if I say Vader, you can say, I got 5 things right here I just know we have that would be great. Or do you have to refresh your memory with, going through the old card catalog or whatever you got there?
Absolutely. The card, the Dewey Decimal System.
Right.
The Chewy Decimal System.
The Chewy, very good. That was quick on your feet, man. Ann and I sat down and we went over the list, and then we walked through the museum a couple of times and then the warehouse and came up with a list. And I think almost all the items we selected were okay. They specifically requested a special item for the Mandalorian, and at first I was a little resistant. And Anne said she would make sure it stayed safe. But taking my rocket-firing Boba Fett on a plane trip.
Wow.
Yes.
He's not used to flying.
Which is ironic.
So this is amazing. This is in the first episode, Mandalorian. It's already out there. You can watch it now on YouTube. Go to cinemarelics.com, and we will also share the link, of course. But you traveled with one of the most expensive, most collectible items in the history of not only Star Wars, but toy collecting in general. And so let me ask you, how did Boba Fett travel? Did Boba Fett travel in first class? Did the missile firing Boba Fett sit in your pocket, your shirt pocket? How did Boba Fett travel?
We can't reveal the details of that. That's highly classified.
Man. It can't be, because it already happened. Why? Who cares now? Is Boba planning more trips or anything? Is he going on tour?
Possibly. Okay. We have lots of things happening next year for the 50th anniversary of Star Wars.
Of course.
So,
we're just taking a look here at some of the episode where Steve is talking about this particular piece, and it's hard for me to imagine anything beating that when the theme is Mandalorian. I mean, it's
there are some
extremely iconic, extremely rare. I mean, I think it checks all the boxes.
There are some who say that Boba Fett was not really a Mandalorian, but he
he wasn't.
To the infantasy. Well, he wasn't, no. But it led to the infantasy Mandalorians, and they were going to have all white costume Mandalorians instead of stormtroopers in The Empire Strikes Back. But it got a little too expensive, so George decided that they would color the costume and put a cape on and make him a bounty hunter.
Wow. And so this particular rocket-firing Boba Fett, how did you acquire it?
I acquired it many years ago when I was working with Tom Tumbush and his son, Tien Tumbush, on the first official Star Wars price guide that was authorized by Lucasfilm. And Tom gave me a call one day and said, I've got access to this rocket-firing Boba Fett, or are you interested? And I had seen them for the first time ever at Kenner's headquarters before they were acquired by Hasbro. Or no, it was early. I'm trying to remember. No, it was before they were acquired by Hasbro.
And they were still in Cincinnati?
They were in Mark Boudreau, the late Mark Boudreau's personal collection, and he brought them in to be photographed. So that's the first time I saw the unpainted L slot. Yeah. And Tom said, I've got a bead on one. Are you interested? And told me the price, which was at that point the most I ever paid for one, for any Star Wars piece. And so added it to the collection in the mid-90s. And then the second one came years later, the J-slot painted, and that was an attempt to do a locking mechanism for the rocket. But the problem was the rocket was the same size and it could choke a kid, which is what happened to the Mattel Battlestar Galactica toy that actually led to the whole choke tube size regulation.
Yeah, and I still blame Battlestar Galactica for that, for the fact that we never got the rocket firing Boba Fett, but I guess, that's it was worth it to make sure that these toys are safe. But it eventually did come out. Eventually, Hasbro did put one out there, sort of at mass market, at least a version.
You know what?
The rocket was that long.
Right. But
True.
What? Just for old time's sake, I shot it into my mouth just for laughs.
And did you choke?
That was probably the most tasteless thing I've ever said on the show. So let's talk more about the action figure. Steve, how many of those rocket firing Boba Fett prototypes do you think are known to exist?
I think the general consensus these days, and it's a fairly recent consensus, is that there may be more or less 100 of the total population, including both variations and any other variations. What is missing and what nobody has come up with yet is the original Jim Swearigan kit bashed Boba Fett, which we have photographs of, but nobody, including Jim, knows whatever happened to it. So it could have been thrown away. It could have been destroyed in the process. And it's very possible that it's in somebody's collection and has been for the last 40 plus years.
Amazing.
It's a good question.
Amazing.
You should see, by the way, on the Wednesday catch-up when they announce who won the first show, how they punked me.
Oh, no. You get punked.
I got punked.
Well, we won't spoil that.
It's the second time I've been punked. The first time was with Seth Green when he came to visit years ago. Yes. And he said, "Can I handle that Rocket Fett?" And I said, "Well, if you take very good care of it, yes." And I took it out of the case, and he went, "So it goes down like this, right?" And I said, "No!" He said, "Gotcha."
Didn't he actually launched it, though, didn't he?
No.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
No, Seth is still with us. I think had he actually launched it, I think Seth would be frozen in a carbonite slab at Rancho Obi-Wan.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Steve's favorite decoration.
So, Steve, how many episodes of the Saga Vault did you guys put together? 10, 11?
It's not clear right now. They're saying 11. We may have a bonus episode coming up, too. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes and how it builds. We're hoping to get a lot of eyes on it. It was a lot of fun to do. I mean, one thing that outsiders don't understand about collectors, and specifically Star Wars collectors, is that we're a community. We share information. We have always done it, even before the internet. And I've known Gus and Duncan for many, many years. And we know what people are specializing in. And so if something comes up and it's part of somebody else's collection or their main focus, we'll let them know. We do that today. Duncan and I have worked together on auctions, saying, okay, well, I'll bid on these, you bid on those. So it's worked out. We have game plans. And those guys have published a lot. Duncan and Gus have published a lot of guides to just all Star Wars memorabilia, plus cast and crew items. And they've done a great job. The whole community has done a great job with self-published books all over the world. There's a new book coming out on Mexican collectibles and on Lily Lady action figures. And there's a publishing company in Spain that does a collectible series on Star Wars. France, England. I mean, it's just great, and it's really helpful, and there's some beautiful publications out there that are helpful to people who are trying to build their new collections.
I would imagine, Steve, that it gets to the point when you're a collector like yourself and Gus and Duncan that it's almost as if you don't really mind who owns the piece. You're just glad somebody has it and it's preserved and it's cataloged and it's there for others to learn about.
Absolutely. And, Lisa Stevens has outbid me on a couple of items over the years before we became better friends. And as long as I know that Vic and Lisa have it in their collections, then I'm fine with it, because the end result is going to be the Saga Museum of Star Wars Memorabilia, where we combine 1.5 million estimated separate pieces into this mass archive of Star Wars memorabilia over the last 50 plus years. And it's going to be an incredible feat, and that's the way we'll make sure that this priceless collection stays together.
Yeah.
This is the way. This is the way. So do you have any updates for us on when there actually might be some progress moving forward with the actual museum itself in a physical location?
Well, the actual museum is probably half to a decade away, but we're hoping to do a pop-up in the San Francisco Bay Area for the 50th anniversary, and we're working with a number of museums across the country to have pieces or a large part of our collection in museum exhibits.
I'm so happy to hear that, so that people from all over the country can go to maybe a museum near them and actually see some pieces from one or more of these collections and help celebrate the 50th anniversary. That is such an awesome idea, Steve. I'm so happy to hear that.
And we will have an exhibit again at Celebration in Los Angeles. So we'll have a room on the second floor where we're going to put out an amazing display. The last U.S. convention we did in Anaheim. We had a great Mandalorian, Boba Fett to Bo-Katan. It was an amazing test for combining the four collections. Of course, we ended up with 6 or 7 rocket-firing Fetts. So we only showed 3 of them.
Well, if you ever if you ever get tired of looking at those, Steve, and you need someone to take them off your hands, just where to find us.
Well, what's really great about duplicates is that then we can have not only stuff in the Saga Museum, but we can have it for traveling exhibits too. So that's the way museums get known, and they make some revenue on having traveling exhibits that go around the U.S. or around the world. So we're looking forward to all of that.
Yeah, I would like to make my basement available to you as a location for a traveling exhibit. I think that would be a hoot. I mean, you could, hit the Chicago suburbs. It's a pretty well populated
Steve,
area.
I'll tell you laugh, but I happen to know for a fact that Jimmy Mac's basement gets more traffic than some local museums. So
this is true.
Can we charge Wendy and the boys admission?
Absolutely, we will.
Every time they go downstairs.
Every time, yeah. There's going to be no comped anything going on around here. All for the Saga Museum, Steve.
What I think is so awesome about the idea of the Saga Museum is that, yes, we've seen incredible, Lucasfilm created traveling exhibits of props and whatnot from the films. But what's so cool about these collections that you and Gus and Duncan and Vic and all of them have is there's props, and there's also the stuff that I don't want to say that the props don't matter as much, but I didn't get to grow up playing with props. I played with toys, and I ate the cereal, so you get to re-experience your childhood, relive parts of your childhood. It's like the best of both worlds. That's what's so cool about the memorabilia collection.
And in addition to that, we've got the fan-made items, because Lucasfilm has always been very good about letting fans play in the sandbox. So amazing pieces of art. Amazing fan-created 3-dimensional objects. It's just showing the fan passion for Star Wars over all of these decades.
Yeah, I know fan-made items and folk art have been really something you've been leaning towards as a favorite in Rancho Obi-Wan over the years, because it's so unique, and the creativity just oozes out of every item. What is your favorite fan-made item at Rancho Obi-Wan?
Let's see if the mail has come yet.
Oh, I see.
I'm going to guess it changes day to day.
Yeah,
it does. I mean, I just love. I've got a wonderful gift that that was given to me last year by the directors, which was a Darth Vader helmet painted by an indigenous artist. And so it has these great Navajo themes. There's a Royal Guard helmet that is hand-beaded, a full-size Royal Guard helmet that was hand-beaded by a guy in Mexico, which is just stunning with Inca and Maya symbols on it. So just the art is incredible. The original art is amazing. So there's just so many different pieces. I would hesitate to pick one as my favorite.
Is there still, and we like to check in with you on, from time to time on this, is there still a grail piece that's out there for even you, Steve? Or have you transcended that? Or is there still things out there that, boy, if you ever had the opportunity, you would grab that?
I learned very early on in talking to people about my collection that one does not mention a grail. I was interviewed for Starlog magazine in the mid-'80s about the collection, lots of photographs, sort of went public. And I mentioned I really regretted passing up a Toys R Us Return of the Jedi kids bicycle for $70. Mint in the box. And it was like 2 years before. And I got a call when the magazine was published, when it came out. I got a call from a dealer on the East Coast and a dealer on the West Coast. Yep. We have just the mint in box bike you're looking for. It's only $2,000.
Oh, okay.
It was a bit more than $70.
Okay.
It appreciated over 2 years.
I passed.
Okay, I respect that. I hadn't even thought of that. But let me just ask you a simple yes or no. Is there a grail item in Steve Sansweet's mind? Or multiple grail items? There is not.
There is not. There are multiple items that I'm looking for. And to complete a collection or to add to a collection, but nothing that really is the holy grail.
Is there an item or a piece of merchandise or something from The Mandalorian and Grogu that stands out to you? Anything new? It was light on the merch, I think. I didn't see that.
Oh, they had more popcorn buckets than the next 10 movies combined.
Did you complete all of those? Did you get all of those popcorn buckets? Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Did you have to eat all that popcorn too?
Oh, they don't put the popcorn in the buckets. That sullies them. You get salt and grease in the bucket. Oh no!
How dare I?
At Disney parks, they have the special popcorn buckets too, and they give you the popcorn in a paper bag separate.
Well, I got the large popcorn with the tin bucket. And they said, well, do you want us to put the popcorn in the in the tin bucket, the souvenir bucket? I said, well, of course, go ahead and do it. And I noticed then Swank also got the large popcorn, but he didn't get the souvenir bucket. And his popcorn was like twice the size of mine. So never, ever get it in the bucket. Never get it in the bucket. The bucket is smaller than a large popcorn container would naturally be. So that's just a public service announcement from your friends at Rebel Force Radio and the Ad Council.
Well, while we're on the topic of Mandalorian and Grogu, Steve, we can assume since you have multiple popcorn buckets that you caught the film at least once. Do you mind sharing your thoughts about it?
I caught the film twice, and I enjoyed it much more on an IMAX screen the second time.
Oh, wow.
I really I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It kept my interest. A lot of great action sequences. I understand the critique from OG Star Wars fans that it wasn't Jedi and it wasn't lightsaber battles, but it was very different. And it was really for the kids and the kids in all of us.
Agreed. How about those huts? Learn more about the huts than you ever thought you would, eh?
Yes.
You seem a little put off by the huts, actually. What did a hut ever do to you, Steve, to make you react this way? Is there
I can't tell you because we're recording.
Right. Well, we'll talk afterwards. It'll be off the record. But no, the Hutts, we saw the Hutts do a lot of things we haven't seen them do before. And that's the one thing I liked about the movie the most, is that it took characters or even vehicles or whatever that we've been accustomed to in Star Wars, but it did something different with them. We know the Amana Men, but we've never seen them do what they did in that film. We know things like the Hutts, I mean, very well, but we've never seen them do the stuff that they do in that film.
Oh, and the mini rig that flew out of the AT-AT.
Yeah.
How cool was that?
Finally getting a mini rig.
There were so many Easter eggs. It was fun to spot them.
Yeah. It sure was. It sure was. And thoughts on next year's Ryan Gosling, Star Wars Starfighter?
Looking forward to it. It's going to be a much different kind of picture than The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah.
We'll see if there's any Jedi or lightsaber action in that one. Could be.
Now, Steve, you were with Lucasfilm for some of the big anniversaries. I think you were there with them for the 25th, right?
That would have been in 2002.
The reason I ask is because, there's a lot of expectation with the 50th anniversary coming up. And as somebody who, worked in the fan relations and dealt with fan expectations all the time, I would imagine that gets, with those expectations, they get pretty daunting and hard to meet sometimes.
Well, we've been talking to Lucasfilm and to others for the last 2 years about the 50th anniversary and how we could take part in it. And that's led to some of these contacts with museums. And we're continuing those talks. And I think Celebration will be 50th anniversary and Starfighter adjacent. Then there's the re-showing of the original 1977 version of A New Hope, which doesn't say A New Hope. It just says Star Wars. So people are looking forward to that. We'll see what that does at the box office. I'm very curious about how that's going to do financially.
Yeah. I mean, if history is any indicator, that film has always surprised people. Both times it was released widely. It has surprised people and done extraordinarily well.
I can remember I was working for Lucasfilm. I started in 96. So when Star Wars reopened, A New Hope reopened in January of 97, I can remember the headlines in the trade newspapers, the daily trade newspapers, The Hollywood Reporter and Variety. It was like astonishment at what an old movie made at the box office. And then they had to move back the opening of Return of the Jedi because The Empire Strikes Back was still doing so strong at the box office. So we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. People have been asking for this for a long time. Let's see if they follow up.
Going to be awesome. And Steve, before we let you go, just an opportunity, if you'd like, to talk about the big fundraiser coming up at Rancho Obi-Wan on August 1st. Anything you'd like to talk about there?
Well, we still have some tickets left. We're going to have some fun. We have some special guests who are coming. We'll be doing a Skywalker Vineyards wine tasting. We'll have a special raffle of unique items and some items that you may have passed by and wish you hadn't, both new and old. So come and join us for a good time. You guys were here last year. We did a Rebel Force Radio.
Oh, see, that's the cue. Steve's time is we're at a wrap here.
Is that? Yeah, that's probably it.
We did a Rebel Force Radio gala, and that was a wonderful time.
It was so great. I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit, about the incredible job that your team there does in putting on these events. They are first class all the way, and we were so proud to be a part of it. So if anybody is available on August 1st and they can get out there, we highly recommend it. It's excellent. You will not regret it.
Thank you, guys. And people should go to Cinema Relics and look at our wonderful new show, The Saga Vault.
Definitely. It's
Absolutely.
professionally shot. It looks beautiful, like something you'd watch on a streaming network or cable television or anywhere. It's just beautifully
Absolutely.
done. Such a great job. Like I said, me and Tyler went down there and hung out with you guys. Came out to a massive snowstorm, which was pretty exciting. I think you told me that was the first time you've seen snow in how many years? A long time.
40 years.
40. Oh, man. Boy, oh boy. There
And
are
I
times
bet
when
you can wait another 40 before you have to deal with snow
You're
again, right?
absolutely right.
All it did was just remind you about the great decision you made by moving out west.
And leaving Montreal after 2.5 years there.
Oh, those winters are otherworldly. It's like Hoth.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, totally. Well, Steve, thank you so much for taking your time to join us here on Rebel Force Radio and get everyone caught up with what you have going on, not only at Rancho Obi-Wan, but with the Saga Museum and now the Saga Vault, available on YouTube at Cinema Relics. So go check it out. I think you'll be very entertained. And Steve, you look great. Congrats to Bob. I guess he's got a big reading going on tonight, so we don't want to hold you up from that. But be sure to tell him that Rebel Force Radio is in his corner, and super proud of him, as always.
He says hello to you guys, too.
Oh, excellent.
Hi, Bob.
And enjoy the reading. That's always exciting to hear and see new work for the first time. So that's awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care, my friend. All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. All right.
There he goes. Steve Sansweet from the Saga Museum. Oh man, he loves when I sing. Why did I wait?
I know. He just the timing was off.
There's
on
nothing
that
I can do about it. You know, the inspiration hits you, and you just have to roll with it.
Well, maybe what you can do is just isolate that and just email it to him or
just send
text it to him. Yeah, because
he probably want it as a ringtone. I'm sure. Yeah.
Chewie, get us out of here!
All right, I'm afraid the coverage of George Lucas in the Minions film will have to wait until next week, folks. But we'll definitely cover it. I mean, it's the maker, and he's doing a little cameo. We got to talk about it. It's going to be good stuff. But speaking of good stuff, we had some great stuff and some great discussion this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Please do share it with your friends, the Star Wars fan in your life. It's a great way to ensure that Rebel Force Radio continues to grow. And, of course, if you want to support us, you can do so over on Patreon.com. And we make it worth your while with exclusive podcasts that you can't get anywhere else other than on Patreon, and the full show video of the weekly Rebel Force Radio and all kinds of surprises throughout the year. So please check that out. We're also on YouTube, so a lot of clips from previous episodes of RFR show up on there, plus a lot of archival materials, so stuff that are in the Wayback Machine from older episodes of the podcast. We're also on all of the social media channels, so you can follow us on Facebook, you can check us out on X, you can check us out on Instagram, and the official website is rebelforceradio.com. But podcasting is really our bread and butter here, so make sure that you're subscribed to us on your podcatcher of choice, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. Please subscribe, please follow, and if you can, please leave us a review. We love to have those reviews. We make it real simple, just one small rule, please.
Make them good.
And that'll wrap it up. We'll see you next week for more Rebel Force Radio, more Star Wars conversation, and of course, George in that Minions movie. That'll do it for us for Rebel Force Radio. I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
Booshkadoo.